Senator, can you comment on the incredible accomplishment President Trump and his team the last couple of weeks to keep us out of a permanent Middle East war, 0 U.S. troops dead, while also preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon? Senator.
Yeah, I think you and I were tracking this the same way. Look, I'm a firm believer. You got the camp of President Trump, Vice President Vance. You put me in that camp. I know you are sort of American realist, right?
That's
For a long time, we've had this wandering foreign policy that the neo-libs and neoconservatives were espousing that we were involved in. Their idea was to be everywhere all at once all the time. We can't do that. And I think we should learn some lessons from the last 30 years. And President Trump handled it exactly the right way, and in a way that I think restores confidence in not only American strength, but restraint, right? Not just strength, but restraint. And those bunker buster bombs dropped from B-2s, by the way, that took off from Missouri. That's an incredible feat, 30 hours in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been in there. These guys, it's just amazing. The aircraft's amazing. But to be able to do that and then drop those bunker busters on something the size of a desk from that altitude is amazing. I talked to President Trump yesterday. We talked about it, and it's just amazing. He's very proud of him. But to be able to do that and then immediately pivot to peace, right? Not to get, and he resisted a lot of calls from a lot of people in Washington to get further engaged, to have more entanglement there, and the discipline that President Trump had to do it, to deal with something that was in the core national interest of the United States, very clearly limited, articulated, which was they can't have a nuclear weapon, but not to become to have outside regime change, or we're going to build a democracy in Iran, but to move away from that and get the parties together for a ceasefire. He should win a Nobel Prize for it. He certainly should get all the accolades. They'll write books about it, I think, someday. But I think it's for those of us who've been longing for a leader who actually believes this, it was just, I think, an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, and so some people on Capitol Hill, and I'm not going to name names, but some of your colleagues were calling for regime change, and he resisted that. That is a failed old model of using American force for nation building. If the Persian people want to rise up, we will be their biggest cheerleaders and their biggest moral advocates in non-military, non-interventionist ways. You get in, you get out, and we're not going to involve ourselves into a permanent quagmire. Senator, he almost created a third way. It's not isolationism, it's not interventionism, it's the Trump way.
That's right. And here's the thing. And when I went to Munich, I tried to articulate this to reporters too, because what does this actually mean? It means, what are the core national interests of the United States? We seek diplomacy first. And if we have to, you use overwhelming force. It's very kind of a Jacksonian model. But again, a big departure from the worldview of a lot of people in this town. I mean, I will tell you, when my first 2 years up here, this is my third year, first 2 years up here, just some of the disconnect of the conversations in Washington versus ones back home in Missouri was stark. Every lunch, we were talking about Ukraine and Ukraine funding. Not one person in Missouri, and this is not an exaggeration, has ever come up to me and said, you know what, Eric, what I really want you to do is spend another $80 billion on Ukraine. Not one, but that dominated everything here. And I think, there were those of us who believed there was a different way and that Europe should step up and we need to focus and we need to pivot and all those sorts of things. But really, when you have a president like President Trump, who started this transition, I think, in 2016 when he won, and then now it's on full display and it works, it just brings more people along, and that's a good thing. We should welcome more people into this camp and move away from this failed foreign policy that, again, is wandering. It's never ending. There's always something more to get involved with. And I think people were concerned about another protracted conflict in the Middle East that we get involved with. And President Trump, I think, showed that kind of restraint after doing what he needed to do with the bunker busters to take out the nuclear program. So it's a big success.
Meandering into the wilderness while our own country collapses. Senator, thank you so much.